All right, guys, welcome to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. It is the 7th day of November, Wednesday, day after Election Day, and, all kinds of interesting stuff to go over tonight. And we'll start it out, first of all, with the rout on the markets today, which, none of this should be a surprise to us, what occurred. And we're going to bring on Aaron Hawkins here in just a minute, and we're going to go over this. But if you're listening and not in the chat room, go to wideawakenews.com, click on the Wide Awake Radio microphone, and that will take you into the chat room. If you want to watch us on Justin TV, there's a link in there to do this as well. And I want to let everybody know we're broadcasting on Rinse Radio Network as well as Oracle Broadcasting on both networks live. So, again, welcome to the Oracle Broadcasting, guys. And this is our inaugural week of running live broadcast on both networks at the same time. All right, here's the deal. I mean, we had this election last night. Now, I don't know. I think that the people that listen mainly to the alternative media, certainly the people that have listened to my program over the last several months, you guys know, especially you guys in chat, know that I was calling this was going to be an Obama victory. There's too many things stacked in the deck in order for us to change the path we are on now. Namely, we have over 50% of the population that is receiving some form of assistance from government. And that's a very, very powerful motivating factor for people to get out and continue having that check show up. Now, I'm not saying that in a disparaging way, even though it's almost impossible to say that and not sound that way. What I'm saying is we painted ourselves into this corner financially that the circumstance of a decimated economy, global economy, the circumstance of papering it over and pretending that we are having a recovery, sprinkling trinkets onto the people of this country in the form of 47 million people on food stamps and extended unemployment benefits and programs and so forth. And we get to a point where we're pretending so long, we end up with over half of the people of this country on the dole of one type or another. So we need to keep this in mind, and we need to understand what comes next. Because the election, even though a lot of us think it was irrelevant to begin with, it's certainly irrelevant now. It is in the history books. What comes next is the question, and this is what we're going to talk about with Aaron Hawkins. And before the end of the program, the first hour rather, we are going to play this new music video he put out. Aaron, I didn't know you were so talented. I mean, this thing looks like it was made in Hollywood, A, and B, you should be on The Voice because you're a really, really good singer. Now, maybe make this announcement also. The second hour, I want to get this out of the way right now. The second hour, Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog, he will be the guest for that hour. So hang out after the first hour for Michael Snyder as well. Aaron Hawkins, welcome back to the program. Great to have you on again.
Thanks, man. Great to be back.
Hey, I like the picture. Is that your newborn there?
Actually, no. That's actually an older picture. I don't have any picture as much as I walk around with cameras in my face. I don't actually. When I looked for actual image of myself, that was the last one I could find that actually looked presentable.
It's a good picture. You guys both have the same haircut, which is the exact same.
She's got a little bit more hair.
So tell us what's going on. Tell us how you've been. We haven't had you on for a little bit. I want to get an update on how you're doing. I know you're not in the United States right now, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And how's things going with you?
Well, that's on a personal level, it's always actually this is an unprecedented time in my life. There are a lot of things you can't predict when you leave a country, and I mean a lot of people talk about it theoretically. I'd spent about 4 years total of my life outside of the country before this, but this is the first time where it's going past a year, and having to really make these hard decisions about where you're going to put your roots down.
Right.
That's something. I don't think that there's really I haven't seen much of a market for people wanting to actually talk about that or hear me talk about it. But it seems like there's a lot that people who talk about these subjects, they talk about just getting up and leaving.
Right. That's an interesting point.
It's a huge learning curve. I mean, I think that the biggest challenge is not the technical details. It's the psychological element. Just really people I mean, it seems like it's just obvious. People in a different country, they're operating on a different frequency, a different wavelength. But
what is? I mean, I feel some tension in your voice there a little bit. I mean, is it over a year in this area? Is it homesick, or is it trying to acclimate to this to this new culture, or what?
Well, I guess what's hard to explain is that you can never truly acclimate, because you're like, as much as I would like distance myself from what they call a typical American, I could tell myself I'm not an American, and every way my mind is wired like an American because I was raised there. And so when you're around people who come from this just drastically different upbringing, and they just don't have the same point of reference at all. And so it's integrating. I mean, it's one thing you can make friends on the surface, but all of our friends are foreigners. Like our real friends are foreigners. So and there's so few of them in this country that it's a challenge, because you come to a point where you realize, okay, I may not be able to change myself enough to be on the same wavelength as these people, and these people may not be capable of being on the same frequency as us. So there's always that kind of gap there. But it's just something to come to terms with, and it's just also, once you've, like, for both me and my wife, we both are outside of our element here. So we don't want to go live in France, because France is really totalitarian in a lot of ways. I mean,
right.
It's not as clear cut as some people might think. In a lot of ways, France is less of a police state than the United States. But in other ways, it's just like a nanny state in so many others. It's like they control every little detail. Like, give you an example. In France, you can't, if you own a business, you can't just hold a sale when you want to. There's a specific time of year when you can hold a sale, and that's it. That's it. If you try to hold a sale, if you try to offer 15% off at a different month than the government's sanctioned sale time, then you get penalized. It's just crazy. I mean, that's the direction the United States is going. But
absolutely, that's command economy, and that, you're right. That is exactly the direction we're going.
Here is the opposite. I mean, here, my neighbor, he just decided he wanted to build a shop and just put it in his front yard. He obviously didn't get permits, because he built the thing out of recycled lumber and scrap metal, painted it all sorts of rainbow colors, and then poured the foundation after the building was built. Just goes to show. It's like,
wait a minute, what? I know a thing or two about construction, and
yeah, I'm telling you,
it doesn't work.
It does work if basically you're putting wood poles into the ground, and then you go back in and dig a hole and pour concrete.
Yeah.
Basically. So yeah, I mean, I was there when he was pouring the concrete, so it was kind of surprising.
Well, to me, it's interesting to listen to you, because it is one aspect in this community that we don't talk about. People do talk. I mean, they are talking about, are we going? Are you going to get up and leave the country? Where are you going to go? And if you did leave to go somewhere, there is a culture shock, number one, and then I've lived outside the United States for years at a time, and I get it. I get what you. But I was in the military, so I was around that setting all the time. So I had that anchor of normalcy, American normalcy. It was American military, but I can imagine, going somewhere, and we'll say south, and setting up shop. It would be an absolute shock, especially if you have family here or anywhere. Your family that's not with you. That would be tough.
Yeah, on a psychological level, it is. But I mean, I feel fortunate to have my life and to be able to continue going. So it's just
and your plans to stay, right? Your plans to stay out of here, out of the States.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back until this is all played out. It's at this point. I mean, it was becoming uncomfortable for people who stay in the United States all the time. You don't really see it. I think the big difference is, because my wife is a foreigner, I was consistently having to travel a lot, so I was in contact.
Aaron, hold on. I want to make sure we start the next segment with that point.
Sure.
Viewing what's happening to the United States of America from a foreign shore. We're going to be back with Aaron Hawkins, Radio. Welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. We have Aaron Hawkins joining us tonight, and we're going to continue this conversation because we only have him for an hour. And I want to make sure, Aaron, I watched the video. How long is it again? Give me the time on it, just so I know how much time to set aside for. About 6 minutes? 4 minutes.
The last video I put out was 4 minits and 24 seconds, or you say 4 minutes 25 seconds.
Okay, all right, good. Then we can run it. The last segment, we'll have enough time to run that because I want to play it so that folks on Justin TV can hear it because I think it's excellent. And he already did, and I'm making the public announcement. He said that we could use it for bumper music and things like that, and I most certainly will change out some music and put that in there because I think it's great. Talk to me about what is it like sitting in a foreign nation, knowing, understanding, being awake. You know, I don't have a lot of friends like you, Aaron, that are in this community that actually said enough's enough and bailed. They said, I'm out. I'm not raising my kid here. I'm not going to partake in this system. I'm leaving. And you did it. So I want to know. I had Marshall Arm at one time. I don't know if you remember him from YouTube.
I do remember him. Yeah.
Yeah. He was living he's living in the Philippines, I think.
Last time I had heard he was in Israel. But then
man.
He must have been, which I thought was kind of strange.
That is kind of strange. Yeah.
Going right to the heart.
Well, and so he would give me reports on what he saw from, the outside looking in, especially listening to what's being said locally about what's going on in the United States. I do get some feedback from some listeners and whatnot that live in the Netherlands and in Europe. But, I mean, you're in this community. You understand just as much as I do about what's happening and who's running the show. How do you see the countdown? And the reason I ask that, and I'll get into it either this hour or next, I'm terrified by what I see happening within minutes after this election being over with my country and with the rest of the world. But we'll save that for a little bit later on. What is it like sitting back and observing?
Well, I mean, you can say that you're sitting back and observing, but at the same time, I'm not far enough away to feel in any way immune from what's going on. I mean, I feel like the police state has less touch on my personal life, but when you're talking about the course towards World War III, if they go that direction, there's not going to be a safe place on this planet, and that's why I put as much energy into that topic. People throw it back in my face consistently. They say, "Well, why do you care? You left the United States." Well, what do you think? Do you think that no one else in the world cares if the United States nukes Iran? I mean, seriously, wake up, people. I mean, it's not like it's just your country and your war.
Right.
They're going to take the whole world into this. The whole planet.
And I didn't mean it as you got out. Okay.
I wasn't saying that towards you. I was talking about these. There's people who are in that mindset who think that, that this is America's business and it's not a question of the rest of the world. But the truth of the matter is that the rest of the world is not as aware of where we're going as the United States is, and that sounds contradictory with what a lot of people think, because I think a lot of people have this impression that European media is much more open, but it's in fact a diluted version of the mainstream media in the United States. So they don't even get the snippets of truth that slip through. You talk to a person here and talk to a person in Europe, on average, it's total news to them if you start saying that Obama has raised the military budget and has expanded the wars. They're buying the official story hook, line, and sinker. The difference between the American public, and I see and the mainstream, the main public of Europe and other countries, is that the American public is much more resistant to hearing the truth once it's put in front of them. Whereas if I talk to a French person or a person here, it takes me about 5 to 10 minutes and I can run them through it, and they don't go through shock. They don't go into cognitive dissonance and attack me. That's the main difference.
Well, what I was kind of wondering is the frog in the pot. Where we're sitting here in it, we're witnessing this. It's actually very rapid, but living it. National Defense Authorization Act 2012, now 13, the expansion of the security state, the degradation of our economy. I mean, we're living in it. So in some ways, we are like the frog in the pot. Things are heating up, but we're being acclimated to it slowly. Are you seeing, from an outside view looking in, this impending crisis that's about to hit this country and the rest of the world.
Well, I certainly felt it when I would go out of the United States and come back in, because I've been traveling in and out of the United States since '99, I believe. I can't remember the exact year that I started, but I've been crossing borders for a long time, and I've been watching the borders change. And I think that's the most indicative of where you're headed as a country, as you start watching your borders militarize and become, more and more scary to pass through. I mean, it really has become more and more like entering into or crossing through the Iron Curtain. And most Americans probably don't see that, because most Americans don't leave. They don't leave their home country. They don't leave their home state. I know plenty of people who never left Texas, and until you go out and you come back in, it's that transition where you start seeing it clamp down. And what I felt when I was leaving each time and I would come back, as I felt like I was seeing like a freeze frame image of a claw that I would only see when the light would come on, and I would see the light come on when I would go through the border. And each time I would go through the border, it looked like the claw was suddenly closer to me, And it was becoming, it's become so extreme. I'm sure it's gotten worse since the last time I crossed the border, but the last few times we crossed the border, it was becoming so extreme that it was emotionally very, very heavy for my wife, because she felt like she was getting cut off from her family, because she didn't want to go across the border. She didn't want to. She wanted to visit her family, but it was terrifying to go through the American border, knowing that they are looking at people like us. They are writing our names down, looking at us as potential domestic terrorists. They put all the mechanisms for putting us away, and they're setting up the borders so that everybody has to prove their value, prove that they have the right to be in their own country.
That's right. Prove who you are. There's no traveling unmolested, even within the borders of this country. We're going to be back with Aaron Hawkins, more Wide Awake News Radio in just a few minutes, guys. Hang tight. Make no sound. Welcome back to the conversation of Wide Awake News Radio. I'm your host, Charlie McGrath. 7th day of November, day after Election Day. Aaron Hawkins is our guest. Gary Hendershot is our very emphatic associate assistant chief technical producer, who is letting me know without a doubt that I'm wasting great material during the break. So I'm going to say what I said during the break, and the folks on Justin TV, you guys got to hear that. And again, if you're listening and not in the chat room, wideawakenews.com, click on the Wide Awake Radio button, get in there. If you want to visit Aaron Hawkins' website, it is what, Aaron?
Stormcloudsgathering.com.
That's right, stormcloudsgathering.com. And you can also go to YouTube. And he's got about 1.5 million subscribers, and he does a great job. And we'll get into his latest video, because, like I said, it's absolutely excellent. But we're going to save that for the next segment. During the break, we were talking about the pot. And we continue the conversation from the last segment. The frog in the boiling pot. They're turning up the water. It's heating up. And I was telling Aaron that I see this, because I go to Canada multiple times a year for business, and you see this. You see it when you go through customs, when you go through the checkpoints, that the feeling isn't about, first of all, you're dealing with people that you literally want to shake and say, what in the hell is wrong with you? Why are you following these rules? Why are you following these procedures? Does this make any sense to you whatsoever? Do you not see that you're not protecting this nation from terrorism? You're protecting the powers that be and their control system. It absolutely is becoming more onerous every time you go up to one of these individuals. I don't know if they search out the people that are looking for the power trip or looking for the ego rush or whatever the case is. But it is certainly becoming a situation where you feel like this isn't to keep people out. This is to keep people in, and more importantly, keep people in check. And again, Aaron, it's not like this is happening slowly. It's happening very, very rapidly. This is where we've come from in the last decade. We've went from no TSA to this, like I said, security industrial complex exploding across the nation. So in the rearview mirror of history, it's very, very fast. But living here, like you said, people that don't leave, they don't get out, they don't see it. But I think all that's about to change, especially now that this is over, the election is over with, and some real crisis events are going to unfold. And there's not a question in there. So let me go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to I agree with you on that. I think that I have the feeling, and this is just me, but I have a feeling we've crossed the threshold that that the powers that be have basically got, okay, all right, now we can have the real show. That's what I feel.
Man, I feel exactly the exact same way, and all day has been surreal with that feeling that, okay, this is it. The show's about to start.
We'll see. I don't want to predict timelines. I've always been very careful about that, but I feel very strongly that in this next period, this next 4 years, our entire world is going to be turned upside down. That's just what it feels like. It's we've all been seeing something coming for a long time, but a lot of times people are basing those assumptions on the wrong criteria. I mean, people talk about the QE2, QE3. I mean, yes, these things are signs of the end of the dollar, but they don't understand what's really holding it up, and that's why they keep getting it wrong. I mean, there's no other country in the world who's ever had this particular situation where everybody has to have the dollar to get oil. So you can't really compare what's happened in the past. But what you can say is, okay, if the value of the dollar is based on only being able to get oil in dollars, and all these countries are moving off of the dollar for their oil sales, like Russia and China and India and Iran, and there's this push towards trying to stop Iran, because Iran is the fourth largest oil reserve in the world, I believe. Yeah. Then it seems pretty obvious that that's where it's going to come to a head. However it plays out in the Iran situation, either it completely falls out of our hands and Iran expands its oil sales and it breaks free from the sanctions, which I kind of think is unlikely at this point, because Europe has a lot at stake as well with the dollar, keeping the dollar afloat. So you have NATO aligned against Iran, but if for some slip of fate it actually does survive this, then the dollar is going to be destroyed at some point as a result, because once enough countries are able to start selling their oils and outside of dollars, they're going to, because of the fact that the United States is just printing endlessly. I mean, it's a ripoff. Basically, we've got the entire world by the balls. We're just printing, and everybody has to keep sending their products to us to get that paper so that they can buy their oil, because everything runs on oil. Every economy in the world would come to a stop without the oil. But what happens when we can't get our oil at the prices, these artificial prices that we have come to accept? And people are upset about $5 a gallon oil, or $5 a gallon gasoline. It's $20 a gallon, $30 a gallon, $50 a gallon. It's going to go way beyond anything in your wildest imagination once people are selling oil in another currency. And at some point, you're just not going to be able to buy oil with the dollar, because once that spiral of hyperinflation starts, it goes all the way to zero.
Yeah, no doubt. And there's a lot of people warning that's the direction we're going to go. And that's, you're just looking at the petrodollar aspect of it, which I agree with you on. I mean, if the petrodollar's back was broken, then it's game over for the economy of the United States, because you lived in France, I lived in Germany. You can tell everybody what they pay. What they pay for fuel. Even in France, a Western nation with a developed economy, they pay double, triple, quadruple per gallon what we pay here, because they're not pricing oil in the euro. They're pricing in the U.S. dollar. So we have that built-in advantage, and that is not even taking into consideration. Let's take that into consideration with an economic implosion that it seems to be. I was on RT today, actually just before the program, talking about the violence that's spilling out of Greece right now. And, it seems that the election ran its course, and now we're going to just automatically switch to a divided United States of America, a divided left and a right, a blame game being played here, and then a European crisis that was kind of put on the back burner for a few months. That bam, it blew up today with a vote of the parliament in Greece to implement even more austerity on the folks there. And Aaron, I think it's pretty obvious the direction that the powers that be are trying to bring the world, which is more and more power being put in the hands of fewer and fewer people on high, and always it's the central banks that will amass this power. And to get this final push, this final kick, it's going to have to be done on the back of an uber crisis, and this is going to be financial. I believe it's going to be financial, military. It'll be Iran, Europe, all mixed together, throwing the planet into this chaos in order to implement their agenda.
It definitely seems to be the case, and I think that there's a number of powerful forces that are pushing for these kinds of things, but at the same time, I think they've overstepped their bounds. I think they've gambled too far. I think this is just a reflection of the psychology of the kind of psychopaths that do this kind of thing. I mean, you look at people like Hitler, people like Napoleon, even Alexander the Great. Consistently, these people who are driven for more and more power, they just can't stop. And I think I brought this analogy up in other shows before, but it's something that I always like to bring back, because a person who is a true psychopath, a person who's truly driven for power, they can't stop until they lead themselves into disaster. They can't stop until they lose everything.
No, and there's never enough. You're 100% right. There's never enough power. There's never enough control, and there's never enough hubris. Right? There's never any supply of hubris that they have the best answer for you. We're going to be back with Aaron Hawkins, more Wide Awake News Radio. We're going to listen to his video and watch it if you're on Justin TV directly after this break. We'll be right back. Guys, welcome back to Wide Awake News Radio. I'm Charlie McGrath, your host. Aaron Hawkins is our guest. His website, his YouTube and his website are both the same name, stormcloudsgathering.com or Storm Clouds Gathering on YouTube. Please check him out. Subscribe to him if you haven't already. And he sent a video out that he just finished. Aaron, in about a minute or so, give us the motivation behind this. I didn't know you were so talented, either with video because it's a very, very well produced piece of video, and also singing wise, you're a very excellent singer. Go ahead, give us the motivation behind this video.
Well, I actually had to learn a new software to make that video. That was the first time I've used that software, so it made my head hurt. I actually wrote that song a while back. I don't remember the exact time. I know it was close to around 2000, 2001, around that time. And the thing is, I've been talking to people about this stuff for a long time, because the signs for what we're headed for were there going back decades, but it wasn't obvious to people because they weren't feeling it in their pocketbook yet. But it seems, I had made an attempt to put it out there back after I first recorded it, because I recorded that one time back in 2005, and I released it, and you know how it is, record labels and all that. You send them a CD and they just send it right back. They don't open the envelope. So I was like, I'm just sick of it. I didn't want to even mess with the trying to struggle to get the mainstream music industry to look at it. So have you been a singer your whole life? I mean, you're in bands and that kind of thing? No, I mean, I guess I started when I was 18, and I had a lot of twists and turns that made me not look at it as professional thing. You know how it is. I mean, you have your dreams, you have your things that you like doing. I like making music. But then the reality of the matter is, I wasn't going to spend my whole life with a guitar strapped to my back. I wanted to have a wife and kids and all that stuff. So I at some point, the great irony of this whole thing is that I originally made my first website, waitingforthestorm.com, because I wanted to promote my album. But my album was called Waiting for the Storm, and this was a song that was on that album. And like I said, it didn't really work at that time, because for one thing, I think what I was saying was a way too extreme. This was before the collapse started. Mm-hmm. And it just didn't resonate with people. So I just, okay, well.
No, all right. What's the title of this song?
The Point of No Return.
Point of No Return. We're going to go ahead and Gary will go ahead and play it, and we'll have it on JTV, and I'll put a link to it in the website as well. Again, stormcloudsgathering.com, Stormclouds on YouTube. Take it away, Gary. There, Gare. Yeah, obviously, we were having a little bit of buffering issues, but
well, actually, I think the problem was more significant than that. For some reason, I was not getting audio back from my secondary machine. And I apologize to the audience. That was a technical problem that was caused by too many buttons to push.
Okay, well, we got a good sampling of it anyway. Like Aaron said, a good teaser. Aaron, you have it posted right now. You just posted that today, right?
Yeah, they can watch it for free up there, and they can even. I put a download link. I tied it to my Facebook page so that they like the Facebook page. They get the MP3 for free. But if people don't want to do that, then hey man, I'll give it to you for free anyway. I'm not trying to hold it away from my audience. So
okay, well,
go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say, and if you just heard it and you didn't see it on Justin TV, go to Stormclouds Gathering on YouTube and watch the video, because I mean it's as good of a video as you're gonna see. I mean it's really excellent. The graphics you put in it, as well as the theme and some of the footage you have, it looks very professionally done. I sound like Lindsey Williams now. I sound like Lindsey Williams. It's in a beautiful, shiny wrapper.
Well, I'm really glad that people like. Some people really said some positive things. Some people, they didn't like the fact that I switched to doing it. I mean, I surprised them with some music, but it took a lot of work. I broke my head doing it because this is something I have to teach myself. Everything I'm doing here is it's all self-taught. I learned I didn't go to school for the music. I didn't go to school for the video editing or anything. And to do this level, it took learning After Effects, which After Effects is quite a program to get your head around if you've ever tried it.
I haven't, and I'm sure Gary probably could speak to it, but I can imagine. I mean, just doing the videos that I do, I realize how much time goes into in trying to put those together. And if you have any editing at all, you had asked me once, about you'd appreciated the fact that I can do a 3 or 4 minute video without any edit in it, and that's more out of selfishness for my time than anything, because I'd rather get it right and then in 3 minutes and then have to do try to edit something together. It does take a lot of time, and I appreciate the effort you put into that video, and I like the message because I think it's 100% correct. Point of no return, and maybe it's just this malaise after the election to see so many exuberant people on one side and so many deflated people on another, so many so many comments of we're screwed now or we're made now, all as a result of this election. But it was a very surreal day for this guy, because it's like you don't understand. It's so frustrating when you talk to people that don't understand that this election, regardless of what occurred today, it marks the beginning of what I believe will be this crisis of reality, Aaron.
Yeah, that's one thing we should reiterate very clearly, because I mean, me and you, we understand this. It would have been the same thing. Obama or Romney wouldn't have changed a thing.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who are living in la la land about this, and who were actually hoping that Romney would win and that would change things somehow. And I was, even though, I mean, if you look in my walk and talk videos, a couple of times I pretty much called that I thought Obama was going to win for the same reasons that you say, because it's just, if they change the agenda, I mean, if they change the presidency, they have to change the pace, they have to change the agenda. But in a way, I was a little bit disappointed, just because if Romney had won, then we get to see some of these fake patriots come out, and we'd get to kind of we'd see where things actually where the dust actually settled, and that's what happened with Obama. As soon as Obama got elected, all these anti-war activists
went away.
So they disappeared. And then they started defending war. Worst of all, and that was very eye-opening for me. That was the first time I think that election for me was the first time that I had actually seen, because I had been following the left at that point. I mean, I think during the Bush years, I think I considered myself left-leaning in a lot of ways because they were the ones who were attacking Bush. I thought that there were, that for instance, NPR at that time in my life, I thought, there were some awake people in NPR because they were actually attacking Bush. But then when Obama wins and they just flipped, it was like, oh my God, there's so few on the left who have any integrity whatsoever. And I'm convinced that it's the same thing on the right. That if Romney had won, half these people who were out talking about freedom and liberty would just disappear.
Absolutely, you're 100% correct, man. They would have, and not to say that all anti-war people went away, but certainly the media stopped covering it because it wasn't conducive to the agenda. But there was an awful lot of people that were on the anti-Bush bandwagon because it was part of the so-called left's agenda, and when the left's in, they just vanish and go away. I agree. Seeing Obama win, the one consequence of this, we're about to run out of time, so let me give you your website again. It's stormcloudsgathering.com, stormcloudsgathering on YouTube as well. One thing that is a real negative, one thing that's going to be really troubling, is the continued division in the country, because there's a lot of people today that woke up, saw that Romney lost, then saw the Dow Jones at negative 300, and it just solidified the fact that the economic condition we are in right now is purely 100% a blue light special. This is a blue team deal, and that the problems that continue from this point forward are going to be a Democrat issue. And again, that plays into the agenda. One more reason why Obama was not going anywhere, because the division isn't done, but it is certainly ramping up. And I agree with the video title, Point of No Return. Aaron Hawkins, thank you very much for joining me again.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll get you on again next month, hopefully. All right, Aaron Hawkins, everybody. Stormcloudsgathering.com, Stormclouds Gathering on YouTube as well. Please hang tight. We're going to be back after our break here with Michael Snyder of the Economic Collapse blog and the endoftheamericandream.com. So we're going to be back. Hang tight. See you in a few.